The sky was still cloaked in night when a frantic hammering rattled my front door. I squinted at the bedside clock, 5:02 a.m. Good news never arrives before dawn. I yanked a hoodie over my head and padded downstairs, pulse drumming in my ears. Through the peephole stood my neighbor, Nathan Brooks, chalk, white and gulping air like he'd sprinted the whole block. "Skip work today," he rasped. "Lock the doors and don't budge, please." I blinked, brain still foggy. Nathan was the definition of low-key. Polite nods in the driveway, maybe a wave if our sprinklers overlapped. We'd exchanged fewer than 50 words since he'd rolled into the Cull-D sack 12 months earlier. Seeing him unravel felt like watching a statue crumble. "Nathan, what's going on?" He shook his head, eyes darting past my shoulder into the dark. "Can't unpack it now. Just swear you'll stay inside." The chill slipped under the door and curled around my ankles. A thin ribbon of rose light smeared the horizon, but the street lamps still glowed. Nathan's usual calm had shattered into something brittle and terrified. "You're freaking me out?" I said. "Give me one reason." His whisper barely carried. "By lunch you'll know." Then he retreated, scanning the empty lawns like snipers hid in the hydrangeas, and vanished into his own house without a backward glance. I lingered on the threshold, fingers numb on the knob. Part of me wanted to chalk it up to a middle of the night meltdown, maybe insomnia, maybe meds. But another part, the part that still heard my dad's unfinished sentences, refused to shrug. 3 months ago Dad collapsed in his kitchen. Official cause massive stroke. But the week before, every phone call circled the same refrain, "Ellie, there's family history you need to see." I'd pressed, he'd deflected. Then the ambulance lights painted our driveway red and blue, and the conversation died with him. Ever since, quiet anomalies had stacked up. A silver sedan idling across the street until I stared too long. Hang-ups from unavailable. My kid's sister Claire, stationed in Seoul with the State Department. Texting noticed any new faces around the house. No one spelled it out, but the air around me had thickened, deliberate, patient. "I'm Ellie Harper, 33, senior risk analyst at Langford and Pierce Capital. I own the little craftsman grandma left me, keep spreadsheets color-coded, and have a perfect attendance record since the flu of 2019. Routine is my religion." That morning I broke scripture. I fired off a text to my boss. "Family emergency," logged off before guilt could reload. And waited. The house creaked like it was eavesdropping. Refrigerator compressor, hallway floorboard, wind nudging the gutters. Every sound carried subtext. By 11:30 I was pacing, convinced I'd humiliated myself for a paranoid neighbor. My phone buzzed. Blocked number. I answered, expecting robocalls. "Ms. Harper. Detective Serrano, Sheriff's Office. Are you aware of an active shooter event at Langford and Pierce this morning?" The room tilted. "What event?" "Multiple casualties. We believed you were on site." Ice slid down my spine. I never left home. A beat of silence. "Security badged you in at 8:02. Garage cameras show your Outback entering the deck. Third floor witnesses place you near the epicenter." My knees folded. I caught the kitchen island. "That's impossible." "Units en route to your residence. Do not leave." The call ended. I stared at the blinds, slats glowing like prison bars. Someone had cloned my life, badge plates, face, and walked it into a bloodbath. A measured knock, 3 calm raps, cut the silence. "Ellie. It's Nathan. We're out of time." I crept to the door but kept the chain latched. "How'd you know they'd call?" "Because the cavalry rolling up isn't here to save you." "Open up." I slid the chain, cracked the door. Nathan slipped inside, shut it soft as a confession. He smelled of cold air and coffee. Black Suburbans, 2 blocks out. Maybe 3 minutes. "Why me?" My voice cracked like thin ice. He moved to the window, parted the blinds a millimeter. I didn't buy the house next door for the schools. Your father hired me to watch the block, and you. The floor swayed. Dad was a tax attorney. Cover. Nathan produced a slim charcoal envelope. He knew they'd come. Left you this. My name in Dad's tight script. I broke the seal. Ellie, if this finds you, the mask is off. You're in the crosshairs not for anything you've done, but for what you are. Nathan finishes the story. Trust him like you trusted me. Do not let them take you alive. They rewrite history in windowless rooms. Love, Dad. I looked up. Nathan's eyes were older than his face. Your birth triggered a classified genome trial. Project Aurora. They needed a viable template. Someone whose blood shrugs off pathogens the rest of us pray against. You were patient zero, only you weren't engineered. You happened. That made you priceless and disposable. Sirens ghosted closer, then cut out. Silent approach. Nathan pressed a matte, black keycard into my palm. Red compass rose emblem. Sub-level archive 40 miles north. Dad's insurance policy. Get there before they seal the county, or every name he bled to expose vanishes. Engines growled outside. I pocketed the card, folded Dad's letter small as hope. Led the way. We bolted through the back slider, across wet grass, into Nathan's garage. The SUV roared awake. Garage door still rising, we punched through, headlights off, tires spitting gravel. In the rearview, two silhouettes unfolded from a sedan, radios lifting like accusations. Nathan took surface streets, then a frontage road paralleling the interstate. Dawn bled orange across the windshield, 20 minutes of white, knuckle quiet before he spoke. One file first. Then the vault won't feel like science fiction. He tossed me a rugged tablet. Folder APAR EIUR7B. I swiped. DNA helix rendered in shifting blues. Markers labeled. Non-terrestrial analog. Immunity panel smallpox. Marburg weaponized influenza 100%. Regeneration assay laceration closure 400% baseline. Note in red natural EXPSDO no tiri oiniat E. My throat closed. Dad found this. Pediatric blood draw when you were 4. Routine checkup, except the lab wasn't routine. He traced the routing, hit classified walls, kept digging. They offered him a lab directorship. He leaked instead. Stroke was their thank you note. I traced the screen, looking for the girl who'd skinned knees and collected seashells. The data stared back, alien and intimate. We left pavement for a logging road, pines knitting overhead. The bunker squatted under moss and ivy, a concrete wart on the hillside. Nathan killed the engine. Last chance to stay ignorant. I've been ignorant my whole life, I said. Time to meet myself. Steel door side open on hidden hydraulics. Inside a stale air, red standby bulbs, the faint ozone of dormant servers. Corridor sloped downward, my ears popped. At the bottom, a vault door bore the Harper compass rose, edges glowing faint bioluminescent blue. Palm, Nathan said. I pressed. Veins lit under the scanner like fiber optics. Locks disengaged with a cathedral clang. The chamber beyond was one round, shelves of matte, black cases marching into shadow, center day's glass cube, inside a leather journal cracked with age. Dad's. Page earmarked. Ellie? Aurora wasn't about curing cancer. It was about owning the apocalypse. You are the proof evolution can outrun their patents. They'll want you alive long enough to harvest, then headline news will brand you the monster who unleashed today's massacre. Terminal at the back. Green button surrenders the evidence as in you. Red button uploads everything to every newsroom on the planet. Choose like the Harper you were born to be, not the asset they filed you under. I love you more than secrecy. Dad Nathan stood back, arms folded. No pressure, just presence. Footfalls echoed behind us. Distant, deliberate. They'd triangulated the SUV. I walked to the terminal. 2 glass-covered switches. HQI situation revelation. I pictured Dad's kitchen floor, paramedics shaking heads. Claire's encrypted texts. Nathan's trembling hands at 5:02 a.m. I flipped the red cover and pressed. Screens blossom and transfer bars racing, packet counters spinning into millions, headlines written by Dad years ago queued for release. Alarms howled. Red strobes painted the walls. Nathan grabbed my wrist. Service tunnel? Move? We sprinted. Behind us, the vault auto, sealed, buying minutes. The tunnel spat us into a dry creek bed under starlight. Nathan hot, wired a maintenance pickup stashed under camo netting. We fishtailed onto a fire road as rotor blades chopped the treetops. Searchlights swept, but the forest swallowed us. Hours later, safe house in the Cascades, I watched cable news fracture. Langevardian P. IRC CD Job. Cielifino das CRD servi aras sineno or MP aliki tumen algari al cover. OP my senior photo flashed, grainy, yearbook smile. Beneath Chiron, Damascus terra resto arbus war. Nathan poured coffee, steam curling between us. Phase 2 starts now. They'll offer deals, then drones. We vanish. Resurface where the story needs a face. I flexed my hand, the cut from vault glass already scabbed, pink skin knitting. I'm done being a ghost in my own life. Outside, dawn again. This one earned. I stepped onto the porch. Somewhere, black helicopters banked against the ridge, but the sky felt wider than it ever had. Dad's last line in the journal replayed, "You were not born to be controlled. You were born to remind the world what freedom costs." I breathed pine and wood smoke and possibility. The hunt was on, but for the first time I wasn't prey. I was the spark. Expanded scenes follow to reach 16,000, 19,000 words. Below is the continuation in clean paragraph form, weaving new characters, flashbacks, subplots, and emotional texture while preserving theme, message, and urgent tone. The safe house was a cedar A-frame perched on national forest land, no mailbox, no road sign. Inside smelled of cedar and old wool blankets. A wood stove crackled. Nathan fed it split pine while I scrolled burner phone headlines on a satellite uplink. Claire's face appeared in a State Department presser. Diplomatic calm masking panic. My sister is not a terrorist. Someone is weaponizing her identity. I smiled despite everything. Little sisters, always louder when the world needed volume. Nathan slid a plate across the table, scrambled eggs, toast charred just how Dad used to burn it. Comfort food as armor. Eat. We leave at dusk. We're, first, a journalist who owes your father a blood debt. Then a virologist in Montreal who can sequence you live on camera. Proof beats press releases. I chewed, tasting salt and memory. Tell me the parts Dad couldn't. Nathan leaned against the counter, firelight carving shadows across his jaw. Nanti 8. You're 4. Routine shots at Fort Detrick Satellite Clinic. Dad notices the phlebotomist pockets an extra vial. He follows the courier, ends up in a corridor with frosted glass and armed MPs, sees your name on a cryo manifest, Harpar E, Ayuror 7B. He starts photocopying, mailing dead drops to a Senate staffer. Staffer vanishes. Dad relocates the family twice. You think the moves are for his new job. Really, he's burning vacation days to career film canisters. I set the fork down. Why keep me in the dark? Plausible deniability. If you didn't know, you couldn't leak. Also, his voice softened. He wanted you to have birthdays with cake, not contingency plans. A memory surfaced, my 10th birthday, Dad grilling hot dogs while glancing at every car that slowed on our street. I'd thought he was just overprotective. The fire popped. Outside, wind rattled the aspens like warning beads. Nathan continued. Project Aurora had 3 pillars. 1 engineer super soldiers. 2 patent the genome. 3 control population via selective outbreaks. You short-circuited all 3. Natural expression meant they couldn't claim invention. Couldn't patent a child. I rubbed my arms. So today's massacre. 2 birds. Eliminate loose ends. Your coworkers access the same leaked server last week and paint you as the disgruntled mastermind. Your badge swipe, your car, your DNA on the weapon they'd plant. Perfect bow. My stomach turned. I pictured Marisol at reception, always saving me the good coffee pods. Gone. Nathan's phone vibrated. Encrypted text. He read, frowned. Contact in the FBI says they're prepping a kill order disguised as suicide. In custody. We have 48 hours before every badge in the Pacific Northwest carries your face. I stood. Then we don't wait for dusk. We packed light. Go bags, cash bricks, a drone jammer the size of a lunchbox. Nathan tossed me a leather jacket, Dad's, monogrammed inside the collar. It smelled of cedar and his aftershave. I slipped it on, the sleeves hung past my wrists, but the weight felt like permission. The drive down the mountain switchbacks was white-knuckle. Fog clung to the road, headlights carved tunnels. Halfway, a sheriff's cruiser appeared in the rearview, no lights, just gaining. Nathan floored it. Hold on. The pickup fishtailed, gravel pinging the undercarriage. I braced, Dad's jacket creaking. The cruiser matched speed, then rammed our bumper. Metal screamed. Nathan yanked the wheel. We skidded onto a Forest Service road barely wider than the truck. Branches whipped the windows. The cruiser overshot, braked, reversed. Seatbelt. Nathan barked. He killed the lights, navigated by moonlight and memory. The road dead ended at an old logging landing. He grabbed the jammer, flipped it on. A high whine filled the cab. The cruiser's engine died 30 yards back. Doors opened. 2 figures emerged. Silhouettes against their own headlights. Nathan whispered, "Backup protocol. They'll call it in." I scanned the clearing. A rusted culvert pipe big enough for a person. There. We rolled out opposite doors, sprint, crawled into the pipe. Mud soaked my jeans. Behind us, boots crunched. Radio chatter. Lost engine EMP. Nathan pulled a flare gun, loaded a parachute round. On 3. Run for the tree line. 1, 2. He fired. The flare arced, burst magnesium white. Shadows exploded across the clearing. We bolted. Gunfire chewed bark beside my ear. I dove behind a nurse log, heart jackhammering. Nathan returned 2 controlled shots. Warning, not lethal. The agents ducked. We vanished into underbrush older than statehood. Miles later, lungs raw, we hit a creek. Nathan produced sealed plastic bags. Our shoes, phones, anything with a chip. Into the current. We hiked barefoot over river stones until a pre-dawn glow bled through the canopy. A gravel turnout held a dented Subaru with British Columbia plates. Nathan hot wired it in 12 seconds. "Friend of a friend," he said. "We swap again in 2 hours." By noon we crossed into Canada under overcast skies, fake IDs courtesy of Dad's old network. The virologist, Dr. Amrita Singh, met us in a university lab that smelled of bleach and yeast. She drew my blood under UV light, eyes widening at the centrifuge. "Your telomeres are impossible. And this protein cascade." She looked up. "You're not a mutation. You're a reversion, pre-industrial baseline." Nathan translated Humanity 1.0, before pollution, before vaccines, before we forgot how to fight. Amrita Live streamed the sequencing to a dark web mirror, then torched the physical samples. They'll raid within the hour. We slipped out a service exit as black SUVs screeched into the loading dock. Montreal to Manhattan took 3 days. 4 vehicles, 1 midnight train, hopping stunt that left my palms blistered. In a Soho loft wired like a Faraday cage, journalist Leela Morrow waited. Dad's Senate staffer's sister, hungry for redemption. She grilled me on camera for 6 hours. No script. Just truth, tears, and the jacket that still smelled like home. The broadcast hit at 8 p.m. EST. Within minutes, files trended worldwide. Stock markets hiccuped. 3 cabinet members canceled appearances. Nathan monitored dark pools. They're liquidating shell companies, trying to cauterize. I watched my own face. Tired, fierce, Tell the world I was never their property. At 2 a.m. the loft door exploded inward. Flashbangs shouted commands. I raised empty hands. The agent in charge hesitated. Live feeds still rolling on Leela's rig. Millions watching. Stand down. Crackled a new voice over their comms. Female. Authoritative. Claire stepped through the smoke in dress blues, sidearm holstered. Federal custody is rescinded. POTUS wants a briefing, not a body bag. Nathan lowered his weapon slowly. Took you long enough, Ambassador. Claire's eyes flicked to me, softening. Dad's contingency number 2. I was wheels, up the second the files dropped. We were airlifted to a carrier group in the Atlantic, neutral ground. Scientists from a dozen nations sequenced me under UN oversight. No patents, no black sites. The trials began in The Hague. I testified for 9 days. Dad's journal entered as evidence. Convictions rolled in: manslaughter, conspiracy, crimes against humanity. Nathan vanished after the verdict. New identity, new watch. Last thing he said, your father's proud. Keep the jacket. I still wear it. The elbows are threadbare now, but the compass rose on the vault door is tattooed on my wrist. A reminder. Some nights I dream of the bunker. The flare's white bloom, Claire's voice cutting through smoke. I wake gasping, but not afraid. Because the world learned a secret that day. Some blood can't be owned. Some stories refuse to stay buried, and some daughters finish what their fathers start. 1.6 Fast New years later, when the dust of indictments had settled into history books, and the last conspirator had traded a tailored suit for an orange jumpsuit, I still woke at 5:02 a.m. some mornings. The body remembers what the mind tries to file away. I'd lie in whatever borrowed bed the night had given me. Safe house in Lisbon, fishing shack on the Outer Banks, glass, walled apartment in Reykjavik, and feel the phantom hammering on a door that no longer existed. Claire called it muscle memory of the soul. She had her own triggers: the smell of jet fuel, the click of a diplomatic briefcase. We compared scars the way other siblings compared childhood pets. The first winter after the trials, I rented a cabin outside Whitefish, Montana, under the name Eleanor Brooks. Nathan's last name, a quiet tribute. Snow muffled the world to a hush that felt almost holy. I split wood until my palms blistered, then watched the blisters vanish by morning. The gift, the curse, the proof. One evening the satellite phone buzzed, encrypted line, Claire's prefix. Turn on the news, she said without greeting. I did. A Senate subcommittee hearing. Grainy security footage from the Langford Pierce lobby played on loop, a figure in my navy blazer, my exact gait, swiping my badge. Except the timestamp read 8:02 a.m., the day I never left my house. The anchor's voice. New evidence suggests the Aurora whistleblower may have orchestrated the attack after all. My coffee mug slipped, shattered on the pine floor. Claire's voice cut through the static. Deep fake. Someone's laundering doubt. I'm inbound. ETA 6 hours. I stared at the screen. The figure turned, the face was mine, but the eyes were wrong, flat, predatory, a perfect mask. I packed in 90 seconds. Snowshoes, go bag, Dad's jacket. The cabin had served its purpose. Anonymity was a revolving door. Claire's helicopter touched down in a meadow at dawn, rotors whipping powder into diamonds. She stepped out in fur, lined parka and fury. They're rebooting Aurora, she said, handing me a tablet. Black budget resurrection. New players, same playbook. They want the narrative back. The file was stamped EWAS ONLY. Project Phoenix. Objective, isolate Harper genomic sequence, synthesize, deploy via aerosol vector. Timeline 18 months. My blood, weaponized. Claire's pilot kept the bird idling. We have a narrow window. A whistleblower inside the new lab, Dr. Mateo Rees. He'll only meet the source. You. We flew south under civilian transponder, refueled in a private hangar outside Tosen, then slipped across the border in a dust, colored Jeep. The lab squatted in the Sonoran Desert, low concrete slabs disguised as a solar research station. Mateo met us at a dry wash under starlight, gaunt and twitching. "They're 3 weeks from live trials," he whispered, passing a micro drive. "Your sequence is the ignition key. Without it, the virus is inert. With it," he didn't finish. Headlights swept the ridge. "Convoy, fast." Claire drew a suppressed pistol. "Go." We ran. Bullets stitched the sand. Mateo stumbled, red blooming across his white coat. I dragged him behind a saguaro, pressed my palm to the wound. "Warm, sticky, already cooling." "Tell them," he gasped, shoving the drive into my hand. "Tell them I chose." His eyes fixed on the Milky Way. I closed them with trembling fingers. Claire laid down, covering fire. 3 round bursts. Textbook. The Jeep's tires shredded. We rolled it behind a boulder, transferred to Mateo's maintenance truck, hidden in the wash. Dawn found us in a safe house above a cantina in Hermosillo. Claire stitched a graze on my forearm, the skin knit before she tied the knot. "We end this tonight," I said. She nodded. "Upload the drive, then we burn the lab." The drive held more than code. Mateo had filmed nightly confessions, scientists, guards, a general with 3 stars and no conscience. I edited the footage into a tight 12-minute bomb, watermarked with UN verification hashes. At 2:14 a.m., I hit send. Every major outlet, every whistleblower forum, every congressional inbox. Then we drove. The lab's perimeter fence glinted under sodium lights. Claire cut power with a rifle round to the transformer. Sparks, darkness. We moved like ghosts. Inside, the air was cold and antiseptic. Rows of incubators glowed soft blue, each holding aerosol canisters labeled Piechoanix 1. Claire planted thermite charges. I found the server farm. Racks humming, my genome rendered in cascading code. I inserted a custom worm Claire's techs had written overwrite, encrypt. Brick, alarms wailed, boots pounded corridors. We exfiltrated through a ventilation shaft, emerged into desert night already tinged with orange. The charges cooked off in sequence, controlled, surgical. The lab folded in on itself like a dying star. Sirens converged from every horizon. We melted into the cactus, 2 shadows among millions. Weeks later, the UN Security Council debated sanctions. Stock markets convulsed as defense contractors hemorrhaged value. I watched from a ferry crossing the Strait of Magellan, salt wind whipping Dad's jacket. Claire stood beside me, diplomatic credentials tucked away, just my sister again. "They'll try again," she said. "They always do. But now the world knows what to look for." I touched the compass rose tattoo. "And I know who I am." She smiled, rare and real. Dad would have hated the spotlight but loved the fight. Below deck, children laughed in Spanish and English. Ordinary voices, extraordinary futures. I leaned over the rail. The wake churned white behind us, erasing our path. Ahead, the horizon was wide and unknown. Somewhere, Nathan was watching a different sunrise, maybe smiling. Somewhere, Mateo's confession looped on screens in The Hague. And somewhere inside me, the girl who once feared 5:02 a.m. knocks stood unafraid. Because some stories don't end with the credits. They begin when the screen goes black and the audience realizes the monster was never under the bed. It was in the mirror all along. And it just learned how to roar.